President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order on the immigration ban Friday. Today we went to several students to hear their perspectives and understanding on the immigration ban. Let's take a look. So what do you understand about the executive order that Donald Trump signed on Friday?
From what I've gathered of it, it's a temporary ban for refugees coming in from, I'm also not sure which ones, but particular countries. Yeah.
Okay, so how has your social media influenced what you know about the immigration ban?
That's mostly where I probably gathered most of my information. It's been blowing up because of it, but there's been positives and negatives. Depends on how you feel or where you come from, I guess. A lot of Christians I can see having some of them are on the fence. Others feel that we should invite them in. I would agree with that. At the same time, there's a need for keeping us protected. So hopefully this is a temporary ban, is what he says, but that's pretty much what I'm getting off of it.
So do you know exactly what this means for refugees and immigrants?
Just on a temporary realm, like I said, I don't know if it's going to, he says temporary. I don't know how long that temporary ban's going to be, but as of right now, nobody's coming through, refugees or anyone.
Well, I get on social media, especially Twitter, there's different opinions. Some people are the heavy right wing, they're super against it and super for it, my bad. And there's the people who are completely opposite that are just so against it. There's no middle ground. So I hear so many different sides and opinions to it that I'm not really even sure what's really kind of true about it.
Over the course of the election and things like that, I got rid of a bunch of people on my social media because they were just all negative comments. So I've tried to keep as positive as possible with it, and I have really liberal friends, so all of them are very against it.
I don't really get a lot of input through news or anything because of being on campus. There's not a lot of places that you can watch the news or get information except for social media or whatever you see on Google or Facebook or stuff like that. So I honestly don't know much about what's going on except for there's a lot of protests and a lot of people incredibly upset. A lot of stuff's about to go down. A lot of things are gonna change, I guess. There's gonna be a lot of upset people, a lot of people trying to come back home or try and even become Americans, and things aren't gonna go the way that they would hope it would.
So what do you understand about President Trump's immigration ban that he signed on Friday?
From what I've heard and from what I understand, I've heard that he is banning entry to the U.S. to people who are from terrorist-related countries and countries that have the history of having those terrorists. And then from what I understand, the people that are from those countries, they have to go through a check before they can go into the country, come into the U.S. So if there's a permanent resident that's from that country but he's a legal citizen of the U.S., they have to go through extreme vetting or extreme background checks before they can re-enter the U.S. From what I know, it's going to make it harder for refugees and immigrants to come to the U.S., but at the same time, it might also make our country safer. Because we just don't know which terrorists I think are going to make use the excuse I'm a refugee, I'm gonna come in, and then they're going to come into the U.S. and be a threat to us. But at the same time, it's also limiting those who are actual refugees to coming into the U.S., which I think is probably pretty bad. So
one of the biggest problems that I've heard was probably in the sports world. The NBA and all the owners are kind of really upset about their Sudan players being kicked off, and yeah, it's just been horrible news for people that love immigrants and refugees and stuff. What I've seen on the news and Facebook and stuff like that, it's been horrible news for people.
So do you know what this means for the immigrants and refugees?
Yes, I do. It kind of closed the door on opportunities for them, which is what the U.S. and the United States of America is kind of known for, which to give people opportunities. That's what it was founded on. So it has closed the door on opportunities for people.
So do you know exactly what this means for immigrants and refugees?
They may stay in the same dangerous situations. And I guess for the families, they may lose children.
I know it's not good, and I know I don't agree with it. Do I fully understand what it means for them? No. It's my honest answer, no.
Understand about the executive order that President Trump signed on Friday, banning immigration.
So what I understand is the whole reason for him doing that is to try to slow down, stop terrorism. So he has a good intention behind it. But what happens is he is keeping anybody of like a Muslim country from coming into our country. And so he has a good intention, but the problem is he's keeping out refugees and people who need to be rescued from a certain situation that they're in.
Okay. So how has social media influenced your views on the immigration ban?
Well, I read articles here and there through Twitter and also Snapchat, and so that informs me some. So maybe it's a biased opinion that I'm reading, but that's how I'm informed about how it's a good intention, but the result isn't what we intended it to be.
So what does this mean for refugees and immigrants?
For refugees, it means that America is no longer helping them. The United States isn't helping them at this moment. Things will probably change because the result, like I said, isn't what he plans for it to be. Probably, most likely. And for other immigrants, it's just keeping them locked out. We're not helping them any. We're not that helping hand right now.
What I understand is there was a ban on a couple of the countries over there, and they won't let anybody in the country, in the U.S., and that's caused problems for people getting here. They're like locked out, and there's been protests and everything, and I'm into sports, so I've read something that the NBA players are not allowed to, like, draft picks aren't going to be able to come here and play, and that was a big deal about why the NBA was against it, but that's all I know.